right, I started it. Let me just give me a chance to get people from the audience into, there's Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hey guys.
What does your cap say?
Nick's.
Oh,
He just came in from shoveling, so not too dressed up tonight.
I haven't even thought about shoveling. Okay, so we're good. We're live and the meeting started. Sorry for the confusion with the links, but anyway, we're in. All right.
Here we are. Okay.
All right, Brian, we're good.
So we're ready to start? Okay, great. Well, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with announcements. The only announcement I had was to thank everyone that had to work today from the village, including the police department, the volunteer fire department, ambulance corps, but especially our DPW crews, which have been working nonstop since, I don't even know when they started, but I know I heard them half a dozen times overnight and they haven't stopped since. So I have to imagine they're all exhausted now. So we just want to appreciate their efforts today. I don't know if anybody else has any announcements. Otherwise, I'll move on to correspondence. All right. So two pieces of correspondence were actually from or pertain to the public hearing. So I'll just read the one that does not. Dear Mayor Smith, my name is Roberta Cohen, sister of Marilyn Wolf, who was hit by a car on January 7th. We would be grateful if you feel it appropriate if you could read our thank you note below at your monthly meeting. It thanks the people of Irvington for their well wishes, support, and generosity, and specifically the people of the Irvington School District and the Parks and Recreation Department, whose generosity was overwhelming. Dear well-wishers, on January 7th, while doing my usual walk to work, I was struck by a car. Within minutes of this incident, unbeknownst to me, people were calling neighbors and the police about the pedestrian that was hit by a car. Even my nephew in California was contacted. This outpouring of concern and well wishes has been going on ever since. The principals of Dow's Lane Elementary School, Andrea Cantor, and the Main Street School, Joyce Kaepernick, contacted me numerous times, as did Maureen DePauli, Assistant Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. Cards and gifts have poured in. I do not know what to say other than thank you. I am so overwhelmed by everyone's concern and just generosity. Stay safe and thank you all once again. Marilyn Wolf, Roberta Cohen. I'm also more than happy to not only share this note, but report that Marilyn's doing well, and I believe she's back to work already. So it was a scary accident right by Sunnyside Lane, but she's doing well. And many people know her. You see, she walks everywhere. So she's someone that makes Irvington very walkable, kind of on her own. So glad that she's doing well. Next, we'll open it up to public comment that's not related to the public hearing. I don't see anyone raising their hand, so I'll move on to the consent agenda. Did anyone have any questions on the consent agenda? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next up is a continuation of the public hearing to consider a local law amending the Irvington zoning code to create the multifamily office district. I don't know if someone from Cuddy Fetter wanted to speak to
Brian,
something.
did you want me to go through the changes from the last draft?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that first, and then
Yeah.
we can have Rebecca. I see Rebecca's
Yeah.
on. And
There's not a lot, but I'll
Sure.
go through in the order. The first one's on page 2, because in response to the question that Mark raised about, are we assuming that that an entire building will be senior housing? And so what I did on the requirement that says all dwelling units shall be occupied by at least one adult age 62 or older, changed it to all dwelling units in a building shall be occupied by at least people 62 or older. So that way, if they had 2 buildings and one was senior and one's not, it's okay, just so in the all building, and then you can do the calculation on that. Okay, then the next one is really, you can see what was left highlighted were the changes, and also a couple of things we still need to discuss. And one of the issues I mentioned last time is how you want to handle on the for sale units of the senior housing, if the 62 plus person passes away, do you want to let, and they're living, with a 40-year-old, can the 40-year-old stay there? I don't think there's much you can do about that when it's a sale unit, but rentals you can, but okay. Then the next change was on page 5, and that was, I think the board agreed that assuming they go forward with the moderate income density bonus, that a coverage bonus be allowed of up to 5%. An open question on that is, do you want that bonus to be as of right, or whether you want it to be approved by one of the boards, and should it be the planning board or the board of trustees? So again, this will, depend on whether we go forward with the moderate income bonus. That's one of the issues we have to get to. Then the next is an open question. It's the same one. The next two are open questions that have been there all along. I guess Maxon will raise them. They're here tonight. And that was whether the FAR for should be increased to 0.40 from 0.30. The reason it's relevant to Maxon is that's the limiting factor for them. On the other properties, their coverage limits don't allow them to get up to the maximum FAR. Then, sorry. Okay, then the next ones are on page 12, and that's not so much, well, it is a change. Before I had the moderate income housing as a separate article, like the affordable housing article, and it would apply throughout the village. The board said that they only wanted it to apply in this district. I mean, later you can always change it, but so this applies, so it's been changed, so it only would apply in the North Broadway district. So that's why it was moved there. And then you can see I have highlighted the 120 and 100% AMI because that's an issue that still seems to be open. And then I added a provision on page 13 that on the moderate income bonus, that the additional units shall be included in the total number of units for purposes of calculating the number of fair and affordable dwelling units. So that if you were able to bump it up from 60 to, you were going to have 60 units, your affordable requirement would have been 6. I mean, yeah, would have been 6 or the equivalent of 6. And then, but if you get the bonus and you're up to 72, then your requirement would be 7. And those are the only changes from the last draft. Oh wait, the other thing is, I don't know, did you attach the map, Larry?
I think so. Hold on.
Yeah,
The map was circulated.
the map was attached. Okay, because we had asked Han to do it a while ago. I don't know, somehow it got lost, but I just wrote them, so now we have the map so that it just has the 4 lots on Broadway.
Okay. Well, thanks for the update, Mary Ann. Obviously still some open questions for the board for a work session. I guess now we'll go to public comment, which Rebecca, did you want to lead us off?
Good evening, Mayor Smith and members of the Board of Trustees. Rebecca Volk with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the owners of the Maxon property who join me this evening, as well as David Smith of Planning and Development Advisors. Before I begin, I apologize if you hear my little furry friend in the background. He's a little stir crazy, not having gone out much today during the snow, and he seems to be interrupting all of my calls today. Last month, we asked that Dave Smith be allowed to present and participate in the January 13th workshop. The Board of Trustees kindly agreed to that request. On January 13th, a significantly revised draft of the local law was before the board, and the conversation with the Housing Committee was robust. Ultimately, there was not opportunity for a dialogue between the board and Mr. Smith regarding our comments on the proposed local law. Mr. Smith is available this evening to discuss, but it is respectfully suggested that Mr. Smith is better able to contribute beyond the written comment in a workshop. Therefore, I would again ask if Mr. Smith may participate in the upcoming workshop on February 10th to discuss our submissions and to be available to address technical questions.
I have no problem with anybody else. Have any thoughts?
No objection.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Wait, Larry, is it clear we're having a work session on this on February 10th?
Well, nothing's really
Right,
clear.
that's the only objection.
Yeah, it's not an objection, but I thought that was a budget meeting.
Well, that's one of the topics that'll be on, but it's not necessarily the only topic. So
Okay.
Can the housing committee be ready by then? I thought they were saying they needed more time.
Can hear from them.
Well, how about Rebecca? Why don't we do this? Whatever our next work session is, when we decide on the next work section, Dave can present that.
Okay, great. Do you know when you may make that decision by, just so we can calendar
Yeah, I
on
would say
our end?
probably by the end of this week, we'll probably know.
Okay, thank you very
By
much.
Friday, we'll let you know. But you know, it would be March, whatever the second Wednesdays of March, I'm guessing. So I don't think there's any holidays in
you.
March. So sure. And if it turns out to be the 10th, obviously you can present on the 10th.
Okay, very much appreciated. Have a good
No
evening.
problem. I hope your dog can get out in the snow. One of my dogs refuses to go out. It's not been a fun day.
Yeah, he doesn't like this weather, so he's just whining at me.
I have one dog that loves it and one that won't go anywhere near it. We have to dig a path. It's not fun.
Yeah,
But good luck.
thank you.
And speaking of the housing committee, Tom Thacker. Hey, Tom.
Am I good to go here?
You are good to
I
go.
can't see myself. You can see me or you can see part of me. So
We can see your name.
I'm sorry.
We can see your name anyway.
Okay, good enough. That's really all you want to see tonight.
It sounds like you, so it seems legit.
Yeah, I know. Kermit the Frog all over again, right? All right. So I'm just going to read a statement which I sent to all of you earlier today or this afternoon from the Housing Committee. And I just wanted to put this on the public record for whoever might be watching tonight. The Housing Committee remains committed to the overall concept of the MFO district, multifamily office district, but it has a number of concerns related to the affordability of any potential development in the district. To help the board and the Housing Committee understand some of the issues related to affordability and how the rezoning under consideration might contribute to addressing this problem, the Housing Committee would like to request that the board devote all or part of an upcoming work session to a discussion with one or more affordable housing developers or experts in the field. The Housing Committee would be happy to identify these individuals and invite them to the work session. We strongly believe there are many values at play in this discussion about the rezoning and are interested in understanding how this rezoning might contribute to the kind of community we would like to see in the future. As such, we believe the rezoning discussion should not necessarily be driven by the desire to maximize the tax revenue from the properties under consideration, nor should it necessarily be driven by the number of affordable units that may already exist in Irvington. And lastly, we would be happy to discuss the concerns of Peter Buttieri and the other signatories of the letter sent to the Board of Trustees, prior to last week's village work session. We invite them to reach out to us if they would like to attend one of our upcoming meetings. So yeah, that's our statement. And I think Larry Wonky was going to reach out to the board at some point today or maybe later to see if the board was okay with having one or more affordable housing developers address the board at one of the work sessions.
Hey, Tom, can I ask you to forward that email to me? I didn't get it, and I keep.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Marianne.
Okay.
I will do that as soon as we're
I
off
think
this
we were
call,
expecting,
okay?
Tom, that members would show up, but then by that letter, uncertain though, to which work session you could meet.
Well, so, I mean, if you give it an okay, I will reach out to a couple of people and see if they're available. So, if you say to me, gee, what we'd really like to do is hear from one or two people the following Wednesday night, which I guess is the 10th, then I can absolutely tomorrow or tonight reach out and see if one or more would be willing to speak with the board during that work session. If not, if the work session were put off for a week, then I would ask for that. Or if you didn't want to hear from anybody until the month of March, I would ask them for that date. So it's really up to you. And I have no idea what is on the agenda for the upcoming work session and if it's jammed full or not.
I mean, I think the only thing that's definitely on it, or definitively on it right now, is the budget, just because that's a ticking clock on the budget. But it doesn't usually take that long for the budget, so we can do both. So if you think you can get some speakers, and I might have one in mind that someone just mentioned to me, lives in Irvington but does most of their development in the northern part of the county. I can share that contact with you as well.
Okay, that's great.
But so to remind me, if I don't send it to you tonight, to hit me in the morning, Tom. But yeah, so if we can do it next Wednesday, I think that would work for us. If we can't, I think we'd probably push it off to the March meeting. So maybe we can, maybe that'll work better for people further out anyway.
Okay, so if you can just, I will reach out with both of those dates. What would be the date in March?
I believe it's March 10th as well, because it's a nice 28 days.
Okay, right.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, okay, great.
So either February 10th or March 10th.
Okay, perfect. So I will reach out and try to get back to the board, by Wednesday.
Great.
What's
Nice
today?
to
Today's
talk about
Monday,
March.
right? Yeah, but
It's warming me up to talk about March.
And at that same meeting, we'll have Dave Smith also speaking?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that.
Yeah, that'd be my plan.
okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Anybody else want to? Katerina's letter, she already presented it last time. It was just included for the record this time. And obviously the Cuddy Feder letter, we're going to wait for Dave to do it in his deep baritone on either the 10th of March or February. So, but otherwise, obviously, we're not voting tonight. We're carrying over the public hearing. So if you don't speak up now, you'll have a chance in the future. All right. Well, it looks like Brenda, it looks like you're up. I'm glad you're feeling well. Well enough to at least to get us the
You're on mute, Brenda.
police budget.
Brenda, you lost your voice, Brenda.
There you go.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
All right, so
will you pull that up on the screen for us?
I didn't, Larry, do you have that there?
I will, but more importantly, I need Frank on here, and I think he may be stuck over in the other meeting.
Okay. We
but
actually
that's fine.
just got a question as well. So
All right, I'll let you answer that, and I'll work.
I'll read it very slowly, Larry, so you can try to find Frank.
Okay.
It's from Peter M. I think everyone can agree this discussion would be a whole lot easier with pictures. The sketches presented at the last work session were a step in the right direction, but as the village attorney acknowledged, they're far from ideal.
Okay.
Driveway and parking lot covers were missing, and the top-down perspective left no way to assess the impact of the three-story apartment building on the Maxon site. The only other pictures I'm aware of are those that David Smith refers to in his letter. They showed an assisted living facility with a two-story front section and a courtyard, not the three-story 60-plus unit apartment block now under discussion. And the accuracy of Mr. Smith's rendering was disputed right after he presented them in May. Here's a suggestion. Ask Maxon Mr. Smith to provide updated renderings. Yes, it may be an imposition, but given that they were the ones who put the pictures in play, they're the only specific evidence they cite to dispute the claim the building would be a mammoth hulking eyesore. And then it says it, so I'm not sure if it got cut off, but that's the question. David Smith, I'll ask that you maybe take that under consideration to, show us what a 60+ unit apartment development would look like. I don't know if that's possible in this short period of time, but maybe it is.
Well, that might be a reason to delay until March.
Yeah.
If we actually get some updated diagrams. I just want to be sure that everyone realizes that, everything is kind of like very abstract at some level or other until it really does get into the planning board process. So whatever we see is just kind of, pretty rough and ready bulk and size and stuff. And that doesn't guarantee anything in terms of what's actually presented for a site development approval.
Agreed. And that's obviously, it's all theoretical now anyway, because there's no proposals in front of us, which always makes it harder. But that's the kind of that's the way zoning changes work. It's not like a planning board process where we have, the exact type of, renderings or drawings. It's kind of theoretical, or it is theoretical. Look at that. We killed enough time, Larry.
I know. Just everything's taking a lot longer tonight.
It is. Yeah.
Welcome, Frank.
Hi, Frank.
Hello, how are you?
Was
Good.
that
Time no see.
the other meeting still going on?
Yes, just ended literally a second ago, so.
Oh, good. Okay.
Perfect.
Didn't even need me to end it.
No, that was good.
Yeah. All right. Let me share the screen here and see if that works correctly.
There we go. Frank and I worked last week on the budget. So we put a lot of time and a lot of detail into it to give you a thorough overview of the police budget and what the components are.
We'll try to zoom a little bit more and see how far I can go. No, I don't think so. Wait, hold on. Is
That's better.
that better?
That is better.
Yeah.
Because we don't need the other columns.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And you can all, I mean, I don't know what you're used to doing, but you can reduce the little boxes on the right-hand side where all of us are showing up if it's in the way. So, all right, go ahead. You're on.
Well, this section of the police budget, I generally prepare because I know what the salaries are. It reflects the current salaries at the current level of staffing. It provides an estimate for the replacement of 2 police officers, or actually a chief and a police officer. That's anticipated very shortly. It does not include any contractual increase. The police contract will be expiring the end of May. So any increase would be transferred from contingency. So this is the current budgetary requirement for the current staffing needs.
What is out of title?
When a person of a lower title needs to replace that,
Good, I got it. It's fine.
yeah. If the higher title person's not there, the lower person gets the title pay. So we try our best to really, put each item into the budget so we have proper funding. If you want to scroll that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just tell me what you want to move to.
Do
On
we
the
have a
over-
comparison to, we do have a comparison to last year, sorry.
Yes. We have the column for the current spent year to date and then the prior years. I think, Frank, maybe you want to talk about the next item. The first line under overtime is the same budget as we had last year. So that's the $296,125. Frank's recommended some additional overtime.
Yeah, so for that first line that says potential police reform training, I just tried to base that number on basically the possible recommendations from the police reform committee on upcoming training, like the ABLE training and crisis intervention training that they might want to see happen within the department, which is obviously going to cost us more overtime. So just trying to plan ahead for potential additional training that might be required based on the recommendations from the police reform under that line. And for the next line, the training and plug-in days, currently the members that have plug-in days all have to do 2 free training days. 3 of our new hires plus the potential of 2 new hires this year contractually do not have to do any plug-in or training days. So their overtime cost for training starts on day 1 of training, whereas officers that we currently have do 2 free training days. So that number is based on the fact that we're gonna have to pay overtime for 5 police officers to go to training from the beginning.
Okay.
Brenda, I think it's probably worth explaining the numbers that you see are much larger. So this column here,
Absolutely.
669, that's actually what our current overtime is to date this year. So you're probably wondering, why are we only proposing a budget of 329? Well, much of that overtime is reimbursed or will be reimbursed. It relates directly to the Con Edison construction that's been going on, and there's probably other reasons as well, but that's the primary one.
Right.
So-
Let me just also point out to everyone that if you go over 2 columns, the $649,000, that's our adjusted budget. So we've already booked money from the Con Ed and other, let's say the filming, any reimbursable supervision. Also, some grant money came in. So our adjusted budget is very close to our current expenditures. We have a few more months to go in the budget, so it may be running over. But all in all, it's not a terrible situation considering what the force has been looking at this year with people out and various things. So adjusted budget is 649, year to date spent is 669. Okay, crossing guards, we haven't made any changes there. That budget increases if there's a increase in either staffing or hourly rates. No change there. Our police
And let me just
longevity.
ask, there's been no discussion about, in various places we've talked about potentially adding an extra crossing guard for safety, but I don't know if that's a school crossing guard or if it's like something on Main Street or, and how would that figure in terms of numbers?
I guess it would depend on how many hours times the rate of pay. Would it be during school time in the morning and afternoon?
I don't really know what the best thing to say, but we've talked about it in the past. And it's kind of been put into abeyance. But the idea was perhaps, and maybe it has to not be a crossing guard. Maybe it has to be, maybe that was the problem in the past, because we're talking about, issues in the morning or evening rush hour to try to calm activity of traffic vis-a-vis pedestrian crossings and stuff like on Main Street.
So the only conversation that I recall recently, and there may have been more within the traffic committee themselves, but I know recently and when I say recent, it's in the last several years, there was certainly a dialogue about having a crossing at the high school hill, even though there's a traffic light there, as well as in front of the Main Street school. So that we have, and that money was added into the budget that year that was added.
Right. I understand. But there was also a discussion, which I'm sure was shared with you, Larry, but it may have been something that got disposed of quickly and therefore it didn't reach a very high visibility. And that was, along the discussions of what to do to further increase safety along Main Street, especially during rush hours.
Yeah. I mean, if you think the traffic committee has a recommendation specifically, or if you want, Frank to look into it, but I think we need a little bit of guidance as to where, because now, I think maybe in the past it was related to the down by the train. Was that possible? Or was it just?
No, somewhere along, it was never really finalized. It was just like hey, what can we do to break down, break up the, just the drag, it's not a drag strip, I understand that, but just the no stopping from the top of the hill to the bottom or from the bottom up. And, maybe we talked about, I know within the committee, we had talked about maybe changing various locations, but what would be the most active area that would actually have an impact? And then the second thing would be that we'd sort of narrowed it down to the 2 rush hour windows. And that's where we left it.
Okay.
But it'd be kind of nice to get an idea of what might be possible and what that, the rush hour windows are what, only an hour and a half or 2? I don't know what they are really in terms of the
When
bad.
there is a rush hour again someday, you mean? I guess there is in a way, but it's barely a rush hour, right?
There's still a lot of obnoxious traffic at certain times, especially in the evening, early evening, that won't stop for anyone along Main Street.
Well,
So, I mean-
I haven't,
Frank, is there a way to, utilize maybe the PEO to do some of that? Like, because during rush hour, I'm guessing it's not when when the PEO is most, active with ticketing or even marking tires, especially if it's earlier morning. So maybe that's, maybe they can be, or in the afternoon, or that time between the, 6 hours or 2 hours when they're kind of have marked and now they're waiting, if they can, is there a way to kind of maybe use that person as, almost that floater on Main Street?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we've done that in the past with Jimmy Brennan before. And I think, definitely during the morning time, during the morning rush hour, obviously that person's not usually around for the evening rush hour, but
Yeah.
I think there's probably a way we could go about doing that to utilize him to help maybe slow it down and get some people across more safely.
Yeah, I mean,
I was
because
just going to say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark, finish your thought. I was going to add to it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, because the traffic committee hasn't really been meeting regularly for the last 6 months, I'm not sure how our recommendations would change from previous discussions. But I think, Frank, if you got some kind of a gut feel that you got a handle on some of, what the goal is just to try to, the goal is to try to just get some calming in place at times where it's necessary.
I mean, I'm very concerned about the calming too. And one of the other discussion items was about the little lights that would be kind of embedded within the crossing areas. I think Larry and I talked about that once again. I can't remember exactly what the outcome was about having those inserted, or they weren't. Do you remember?
No, they're still on the drawing board, but there's some challenges, but we're trying to work through them. The Aqueduct crossing is really the only place right now that can be done because the other 2 locations where we had hoped to do it down on Ecker and Dutcher are not completed yet. The final paving hasn't been done,
Right.
and that's actually when it has to be installed. So, but those are, I'm not sure. Well, look, I mean, that's obviously a hardware solution to traffic calming. We've done a lot of other hardware work on Main Street, as you've heard from many residents. Whether a person needs to be deployed or not, I think is probably a discussion you need to have. It's not free. So, because although we talk about possibly using a PEO for that, right now we don't have a PEO and we're not enforcing parking regulations. So we're going to have that discussion later tonight in this presentation. So let's figure out. Yeah, I mean, it's a larger discussion. That's all. We should talk a little bit about our strategy on parking first, and then see. But regardless of that, you need to decide, if there's a problem on Main Street, whether to deploy a person to handle it or whether the hardware is enough. But I don't know where that is right now.
Well, we wouldn't know if the hardware was enough until there was
a rush hour. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I think this is kind of a table discussion in the sense that, we don't have the same dynamics out there as we had. I'm sure we will again one day, but not yet.
Well, seems like a perfect time to put some hardware in place.
Right.
Okay. Our total amount required for longevity and unused sick time is actually decreasing a bit because of a staff that has not been with the village as long as in the past. So as people are retiring, they have more longevity and replacements do not. So we have about a $10,000 decrease in that line for the next year. All right, on to equipment. All
Kind of
right,
span some pages here, so.
yeah. So, yeah, Frank, you can jump in anytime you like, to explain some things. The first item was the hybrid police vehicle. We put one vehicle into the budget each year. Frank looked into the newest prices on the state contract, what's anticipated to be paid next year. It's about $37,500 for the base vehicle. Additional equipment that would be required for that is about $21,000.
That's down on this page here. Sorry, it's broken up.
So I had a question based on, I think I read it in the Enterprise, maybe it was in Hudson Independent. Over the last couple of months, there was an article about one of the local police departments. Again, in my mind, I was saying Hastings, but I could be wrong. But it was a local river town that actually had an all-electric patrol car. It was a Tesla Model S, I think. And supposedly Tesla has a whole configuration where you can get it tricked out as a police cruiser. But I was wondering if there had been any additional feedback on that from or interest or research into finding out what the actual cost was. I'm sure it's probably double the cost of the hybrid vehicle, but I don't know for a fact.
Yeah, so you're all right. It is Hastings Police that has a Tesla now. They use it for the detective division, so it's not a functional patrol vehicle. It's not rated for the regular everyday patrol functions. It's rated for the detectives to drive it and do follow-ups and stuff like that. So they're not putting out, it's not marked or anything like that. It's completely unmarked, which I guess probably makes it a little bit cooler maybe. But as far as the cost goes, I'm not 100% certain on what they're totally into it. And I also haven't really been able to gather too much information on how they're liking it so far or any issues, because they just deployed it just recently, I think within a couple months. So
I thought it was equipped like with lights and radio on computers,
Yeah.
and that shit that you'd have to, all that stuff that you'd have to have and be cautious about with a battery operated vehicle, that you're not draining the batteries down while you're sitting there with your computer running.
Yeah, they did update it with some stuff in there. I know they had to bring it to a few places to get a lot of aftermarket, I think, components added to make sure that they wouldn't drain the battery. So
Now, this
Once
particular
again,
vehicle is actually an SUV, correct, Frank? This is not a regular vehicle, it's an SUV.
this is a hybrid SUV. So
I think it's which are we talking about? The one that's in the
budget.
Yeah, it's an SUV.
Yeah.
But the other one is too. The Tesla is isn't Model S an SUV?
I don't know what the models are, but the one they have looks like an SUV. Yeah.
At some point, if you can remember to chat them up and get some more feedback and get some additional costs from them, maybe that could be helpful for our discussion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I know.
I'm not saying for this year's budget, but we're going to have to be looking at carbon neutral type of stuff sooner than later.
Yeah, I didn't get exact numbers, but I did read an article. Maybe it was Enterprise. I can't remember like you, Mark, either where I read about it. But all I know is I probably got as far as the dollars, and I probably stopped reading because it was still really pretty outrageous for what they were using it for. But we'll look at the costs and see what it is, so you can make a decision.
Yeah, my memory was probably twice this price.
At least, yeah.
Okay.
So the under the police vehicle here, the vehicle equipment includes everything that has to get done to the car, including paint, graphics, radios, lights, sirens, all the parts, all the labor that's involved with that. under the vehicle equipment.
Right. And there'll be an additional license plate reader.
How many of those do we have now?
So we currently have 4. We have 5 marked patrol units, and 4 of them have license plate readers on them. So this would give us 5 to have one on each vehicle. And we're actually looking at switching over from the current ones that we have to one that the county is using. They got a pretty good contract on them. They're much cheaper to put on and install, and their yearly service fees just a little bit more, but they seem to be working very well for the county police and some other municipalities in the county. So the idea would be, as the ones that we have, get old and become not useful anymore, to switch over to this model.
What is I was going to ask you before you said that, but what's the longevity of one of these things?
So the ones that we currently have, we're at about 6 to 7 years for the oldest ones that we have, and then we have 2 that are a little bit newer. So far so good with the older ones. I think it's more going to be software and things like that ends up being the demise of them more than the actual cameras themselves.
Okay, thank you.
And have we looked at any of the license plate readers that serve as kind of parking enforcement tools, where they can drive by and know that my car was parked there at 7:30 in the morning and then it was still there at 9:30 when they come back?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just the license plate reader or that's the software.
Well, no, it's yeah, they're not related. I mean, they're different products, but they're both license plate readers. And so, yeah, we did some research on that. I actually have some details of a study that was done by Scarsdale. And, it's a project we haven't implemented yet. We're not even enforcing parking right now, but I think it hasn't dropped off the radar screen.
Okay.
Does it actually decrease labor and increase violation detection?
It can, yes. It seemed, the demonstration that I saw was very good. And Frank will need a chance to get up to speed on it as well, but it was pretty impressive. And that was in the city of New Rochelle, where it's considerably more complicated parking regulations, although I don't know if that's 100% true.
I think Elmsford has a few as well, if you want a more local municipality to speak with.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a project that's out there that we still would like to do.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in hearing more about it when you get the materials pulled together.
Yep.
Okay. So Frank had also requested some CPR medical equipment.
Yeah, that's the equipment that we need to instruct officers on their yearly CPR qualification.
Okay. An additional server to the existing one, that would be about $4,000. 2 tablet computers, and an extra, just as a buffer, about $10,000 in the event something else does need to be replaced. Or if, I think on the body cams, if they're implemented, we may need a little bit more money than we currently have in the capital budget between that and the grant. So Frank and I had put in a plug for an additional amount.
So the body cams, do they have their own server for storage of the footage, or is that what this additional server is for?
No, the additional server from A1 is just to support the network currently. That's as independent of the body cameras. The body cameras are not actually going to be stored in-house in the server. It's all going to be cloud-based storage.
Ah.
Okay.
I was going to make a joke about Ring doorbells, but I couldn't quite pull it together.
Okay. All right. And now detective department is pretty much status quo, except for one additional program that Frank is recommending, Clearview. And the support for that program would be about $1,000.
And what
But
does it do?
Yeah.
It's an investigative tool that generates reports based on different information for various reasons, whether it's a criminal investigation or a background investigation. the detective division's been using it for a little while through various means, and it's been very helpful.
Does it speed up, what would be manually done and slower, or?
Yeah, and absolutely. And in today's age, with everything being on the internet, it's almost necessary to track all the information down using a source like Clearview, or another name for it's Accurate. That's where it's like a one-stop shop to getting all the information you need to start an investigation off.
Okay. All
And
right.
no face recognition.
No face recognition.
We don't have any changes in our supply line. We feel that that will be sufficient for next year. Office supplies, a slight increase. There's some new files that will be purchased for police matters. And they're not that cheap either. Well, they're not that expensive, but a little bit more money was warranted in there. The old budget was $4,500 and there's a request for $6,000. All right, now postage. We put the postage meter in this line. So there's an increase between the postage and the postage meter. All right. No change in the seminars and the travel budget and education allowance. That would really depend on how many trips were planned and how many offices took advantage of any training. When there's a particular exam being given, like a lieutenant or sergeant exam, we find that more offices utilize their training to study for the exam. So it's a little bit cyclical in a way.
And that would come out of contingency, I suppose.
Or from another police line. At the end of the year, we transfer from one line to another within the police budget. But you can see at this point, year to date is 8,900. Previous years were higher. And hasn't been as much travel this year. And it remains to be seen how much travel will be done next year. All right, physicals.
I'm sorry, I just thought, what is the impact on the police department of PPEs? Is there a line item for that specifically, or where does that fall under?
We absolutely have a line for PPE. We established that line when the pandemic first began, and that's where we track all the expenses that are related to the pandemic.
So that's not department specific, that's village-wide?
That's village-wide, correct.
We purchase it on a central basis and supply all the departments. It actually is it's extremely useful doing it that way, because as you can imagine, there's a tremendous amount of predatory pricing that's out there, and you may feel like you're getting a 50% discount, and turns out it's 50% more than what the county contract was that we were using. So it was really a mess, to be honest with you. And so we centralized the whole thing.
Sounds good, but we typically use the county contract?
Well, when a county contract is in place, I mean, it took them a few months to get a county contract in place for PPE, because a year ago, none of us were buying exam gloves or surgical masks all that much, or hand sanitizer for that matter. But once that was in place, that became our central place to purchase. The problem is that, from time to time, departments, see something that looks like a deal, and they're inclined to go purchase it and jump on it to make sure they have enough supplies. And we make sure that they don't, so that we keep them supplied with the proper pricing.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's, someone thinks they're getting a huge discount and they're still paying, $25 for something that we can get for 15. So it
also really helps for tracking the costs for when we do our FEMA grants, our FEMA award submissions, and we have all our expenditures in one location. So there you have it. Okay, physicals, we're budgeting for 2 physicals, the same as last year.
For new officers.
For new
Mm.
offices, correct. Those are only for new offices. Membership dues, the same. And $100, a little bit higher for our copier maintenance contract. The $100 additional.
So this larger equipment maintenance line is pretty significant. It straddles 2 pages, so I don't know if you want to give an overview of it, but I'll have to scroll down as you go.
Sure. We had a couple of significant items that increased. I let Frank talk to that. One was the A1 computer service. That was previously about 12,000.
Yeah, so A1 is our IT computer services, and they haven't evaluated the amount of equipment that they take care of for the police department in years, apparently. So this is a service contract that would serve the 3 servers if we add the additional server that we mentioned earlier, the 6 cars, 13 desktops, and 4 laptop style computers that they service for the police department at a cost of $17.50 a month, which is, a significant increase from where we were at. So
So the reason that it's so much more is it's a different company, or?
no, it's the same company. Apparently, it sounds like we were underpaying for the last few years because they hadn't reevaluated the amount of equipment that they were maintaining for us.
Oh.
So as we were getting new computers and more computers, they weren't adding to the cost to maintain those ones, and it kind of just caught up.
Oh, okay.
All right. Defibrillators, no change. The recording device, that's pretty status quo. I think if you scroll down a little more, the one particular large item would be the body cam annual maintenance, and that's really dependent upon when the program is implemented. Maybe Frank will talk to that, the way it's the maintenance is in the 2nd year of the contract. So if it's
So-
implemented, yeah, go ahead, Frank.
I was going to say, so the way that Axon rolls out their payment plans for the body cameras is over 5 years, where the year 1 you're paying for equipment as well as maintenance, and then starting year 2 is just standard maintenance from year 2 through 5. So depending on when or if we implement the body camera policy, if we do it before the end of this budget year, then next year we would have to just budget for the $27,000 in maintenance and storage moving forward. If we were to do it after this budget year, then we wouldn't need that $27,000 line in there, because it would be covered under the first year payment for the body cameras, which is approximately $65,000, 30 of which we have in the capital budget and 30 of which we have a grant for. So we would just have to use an additional $5,000 from somewhere to make that difference, I believe, and then budget for the maintenance and storage moving forward for the next 4 years for them.
So is it a question of when you're saying it's when is it when or if it's that we do this? That's a question for us to consider. Is that on the table?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it's a matter of when we decide to move forward with it, more than if. So, I think we're prepared, on our side of it, I think. So it's just a matter of, making sure everybody's on board to move forward.
You're prepared. What would a rollout take? In other words, how much time does it look like you would take to get a program up and running?
So we've been testing out body cameras now. We're primarily the Axon body camera 3. So we're pretty satisfied with that. As far as rolling it out would just be a matter of purchasing the equipment, having them come do the installation for it, and then doing a training program for the officers to use it and download it and whatever else they would need to do to use it on a daily basis. So, some
2 months?
That's some of it's dependent on Axon and how quickly they could get the hardware to us and install it, and then it wouldn't be long after that. Yeah.
So you're waiting for the Board of Trustees to tell you to get started, or what are you waiting on? I wasn't clear, I'm sorry.
I'll answer for you because there's two things we're waiting on. One is to make sure that we have enough money in the budget to handle the annual maintenance, which is not small. That's the first thing. The purchasing is the easy part. We have, as Frank said, we have the grant and a capital budget, and we're pretty close to the amount needed on that. But the annual maintenance is a big nut, and we want to make sure that that's in there. But the second part is we also need a policy in place to govern their use. And we have a draft policy. It's a negotiable, portions of it are negotiable with the union. And we haven't reached a final agreement on that, but I don't think we're too far off. So I don't think that's going to be an impediment. So really just knowing that we have our annual maintenance covered budget wise, I think we'd be ready to go. And knowing that they're satisfied with the equipment.
So I guess I'd ask the same question. If everything fell into place optimally, are we talking about 2 or 3 months? Are we talking about 1 month or what?
Yeah, I would say 2 or 3 months is very realistic to get it fully up and running, including the training.
I mean, so by that time, this number really probably ends up in next year's budget.
Not sure.
I guess it depends on the purchase when you make the actual purchasing.
Well, yeah, we want to identify the amount that it would be and then decide on the timing. And at least if we have at least a holding spot for it and have identified the amount that would be required, either in this year's budget or next year's budget.
Right. I mean, it's only February. I would hope that it would be in this year's budget.
Yeah, I wonder if these companies are incredibly busy right now. You know, it's just.
Larry, the year that we're talking about ends May 31st. So it's
Right.
It's not the calendar year. So it's still,
Right.
that's 3 months away or whatever. Well, 4.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. We're really kind of close to the cusp. And my final question before we let the dog lie for a while, is the maintenance prorated on an annual basis, or is it just whenever you start the contract is when it starts and it's annual based on the start date?
So I think it's going to be based on the start date from when you start the program, because it's including in that maintenance is also storage and some other things that come along with it.
Yeah, I just was wondering because they deal with a lot of municipalities, you know, a good number of them in New York State at least have, you know, mid-year budget rather than end of year budget.
Right.
Okay. All right. I think there were just 2 other items. One was the roll call program. That would be an addition for next year. And also then we need a contract for the additional LPR, license plate reader. So those are the.
What's the roll call program?
So the current records management system that we utilize with the police department, which is called Impact, is no longer being supported soon. So the county is working on moving towards a different records management system that multiple municipalities could buy into for a little bit cheaper, since more people would be using it. But all the potential records management systems don't have a roll call function in it, which is basically how we track attendance, time off, and some other various things. So we would need a separate system to handle that. And a lot of people in the county use, it's called the HATS program. It's actually created by A1 that services the servers and the computers.
Mhm.
And it's a standalone system to track that stuff.
So just as a matter of interest, when you're going to go over, if you go over to a shared program type from that the county recommends for all the records management, what happens to all the old stuff in the impact system? Is that frozen out, or is there a process of importing that information, or is it just a second screen you have to go to use the old system?
It'll get migrated over to the new system before it goes away, to make sure that we have continuation of records.
That's good.
Okay, I guess impact is used by a lot of departments now.
Yeah, I think there's between 20 and 25 departments in the county that use it now, or some variation of it, because there's a few different variations of it. But it's not going to be supported much longer, so everybody's kind of scrambling together to figure out, where to move to.
All right.
All right. Okay, let's see. So no change in maintenance for police boat. No change in the maintenance for vehicles. Let's see, the annual uniform allowance is strictly the number of offices plus their statutory amount that's spelled out in the contract, okay? And then we've increased it slightly to outfit 2 new offices next year. We'll be having 2 offices this year, and next year be perhaps also 2 offices. So to outfit an individual officer is about $3,500, complete with the vest, bulletproof vest, clothing, weapon. All right. And then what else do we have here? Traffic control. We do have a separate item for traffic control, its own little department, so we can track those costs.
The professional fees that are here, which are 0 this year, but that's really for the engineer to handle the radar system. And I think some of you know that the radar system, the black box, so to speak, was stolen. So that's in the process of being replaced. And then we'll be able to capture data again.
Then how much support or maintenance is there on the 2 radar signs, speed signs that are on either end of Broadway?
Yeah, it's not much. It's like, in the hundreds. Not a lot.
And there's an annual cell contract or something like that that's part of that?
Yeah, that's part of that. It's like $300 a year or something like that. It's not a tremendous amount. All right. So then, yeah, parking.
We have a parking department. Our PEO recently retired, so there is a vacancy. And I'll let Frank discuss the potential or possibility to expanding that to a full-time position. So what I have in that budget line is the existing salary for the PEO that's retired, and based upon that rate of pay, an expansion to 40 hours a week. It was a 32, which was 4 days a week. This would be the additional day. It really depends on the hire, but this is putting enough money in there at the existing rate.
Before Frank gets started, I just so you know, looking at these numbers, we have not been enforcing parking since March, basically. We are going to be getting back to that. We're waiting for Main Street to calm down a bit, the construction, for one thing. But in the meantime, our parking enforcement officer, who was on furlough, Jimmy Brennan, retired. So we don't even have a parking enforcement officer right now, but we will be rolling back into parking enforcement soon. I just wanted to set the stage for that. That's why we only spent $1,000 on that in the last 12 months.
Right. It's a civil service position. It's competitive, whether it's the 4 days a week or the 5 days a week. It's a competitive position. There's a list for it within civil service.
Oh, are there additional costs involved above these numbers of 55
Right.
for health insurance and retirement contributions?
Yes, because it really didn't matter whether it's 4 or 5 days, anything over 30 hours a week, the village needs to provide health
Okay,
insurance.
so those numbers stay the same.
So that's already been reflected in the health insurance line. So incrementally, it's the 10,000 and not the extra policy. The policy
Right.
would have been in any case.
Thanks.
So
So that's
Frank,
something for your consideration.
yeah, Frank, maybe you can give a little overview of this, but I mean, in terms of the rationale behind more hours on our parking enforcement.
Yeah, so obviously, like Brenda just said, that Jimmy Brennan retired, and we plan on moving forward utilizing the civil service list to fill that position. And I just think with, we haven't been enforcing parking. We're going to be starting to enforce parking, in the near future, probably. That changing it from a 32-hour week to a 40-hour week will just help with the consistency of the way the parking gets enforced throughout the week, at least. And an ability to have somebody that's dedicated to do the parking, specifically on Main Street, but throughout the village on a Monday through Friday basis. That's going to be a little bit more consistent than it would be if you just have somebody Monday through Thursday.
And perhaps, as Mark had spoken earlier, that can be an opportunity for other types of traffic control on Main Street.
I think that's a possibility. I mean, the main thing we were trying to respond to with this is that during the course of the parking the parking revisions that were made in the downtown, during the course of those discussions, it came up numerous times, and I think everyone agreed that it's basically a waste of time to go through all the trouble of fixing the parking regulations if you're not going to enforce them. So that was the rationale for trying to come up with a more consistent effort in enforcement. It's going to take additional resources. I don't think it's as significant as it could have been, because we were already there 4 days a week. So that being said, there are aspects of the job, especially when you decide to go forward with this, if there are aspects of the job that are not running at full steam right now. The need to enforce parking and that takes a long time over at the Ardsley on Hudson train station just isn't there. There's no one parking there right now. So that's not to say they won't go there, but it doesn't take long. Parking meters and things like that are not being utilized really to any great degree. So that the person that's hired for this, would be able to enforce consistently in the downtown, but could be used for, potentially for other things like you're suggesting, if there's a need from, a traffic control standpoint.
So just, the license plate reader would speed that up and increase efficiency. But my concern is this one of these things where they get hired off the list for a specific definition of position, and that would preclude using them for traffic enforcement?
There are combined titles that exist, and hearing this tonight, the previous person, to be perfectly honest, if you may not even remember this, but he started off as a crossing guard and moved into the PEO business and did both for a period of time. So I think within civil service, all of those suggestions can work. So it's not, we'd have to work out the technicalities of it, but I don't think what you're suggesting is a problem from civil service standpoint.
Okay, just as long as it's not a showstopper, that we have the option if we need to, or we desire to go forward with that.
Yeah, I think so.
So once you reach full-time, that's affecting the pension and all kinds of expenses go up once you hit a full-time level, right?
Full-time would be anything more than 30 hours. 30 hours and more, we're required to offer health insurance as a village policy and also for the Affordable Care Act. So the person was already working the 30 hours. So it's not like the extra day is going to give us more expenses relating to employee benefits. Because it's already considered a full-time position in the eyes of what I mentioned, and also in the eyes of civil service.
So in other words, if that had been 30 hours or 29, it would have been different, but because it was 32, those things were, we were required to do.
Anything over 30
Anything
is required for affordable care and for village policy.
So this change, like Brenda said before, this change really is just the 1 day salary that we're talking
Okay,
about.
all right, then I was trying to look at what was the difference, and
Yeah,
That's
no, it really is just.
not
the
a
sal-
difference, that was already in there.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's pretty much what you
Right.
see right there.
okay. Then I don't know if you're looking for a, point of view here, but it seems, given all the work we did on the parking, I think we should make sure it's enforced fairly and regularly.
Yeah, we feel the same way for sure.
There are no other additional costs raising it from 32 to 40, except for the actual salaried portion.
That's what I was trying to separate.
Okay, well, look, we're not looking for an answer to it right
No.
tonight. We just wanted to present this as a, as a change. It's not a super significant change,
Right,
but it's really an initiative that we want to get underway.
It makes a lot of sense to me, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been clamoring for that kind of consistent enforcement.
Yeah, no, we heard it loud and clear. That was-
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's scroll down a little more. We have our, the pay station. I think that's pretty status quo there. And I believe that may be bringing us to the end of the budget, right? So if you take the difference between last year's adopted budget and this year's requested budget at this point, it's an addition of $162,000 and $162,000. It represents about a 4.32% increase. And what I prepared was a little summary sheet that kind of gave the total and how it was broken out and the various reasons that the budgets were increased, basically.
Hold on one second. I can do this. Boy, you really, must be smoke coming out of my ears when I'm doing this stuff.
There
So
we go.
can you see that spreadsheet?
Perfect. Looks
Yeah, okay.
so. I don't know if I had a chance. We had a little change this morning. It's a little over 4% increase in the total budget, but we had reviewed the salary increases, 65,000 for that line, but it's really due to step increases. Doesn't include any increases in salary, but that's what is required just to fund the current staffing. I'm going to have to plug in my, hold on, it's right here. Bear with me a second. There we go. There we go. I'm back in business. The 33,000 was the increase for, potential overtime for training for the police reform training. And for those newer employees that when they go for training, there's overtime costs involved. Our longevity is decreased, reflecting people with more tenure retiring. Equipment, we had gone through that. It was the increase in the vehicle cost and the additional server, license plate reader. Detective support was a nominal increase, additional program there, office supplies, postage, office equipment, repair and maintenance. It was the big items here was the increase to the IT support and then the body cam maintenance contract. Uniforms, we reviewed the cost to outfit a new officer, and to outfit 2 of them would be an additional $3,500 next year. And then to the consideration of increasing the work week for the parking enforcement officer.
It's hard to see where non-essential money is in this. I mean, assuming we want to go forward with body cams and that sort of thing for.
Right, I mean, I would agree. I think a number of these increases are related to the police reform things, which, you know, in general, are positive directions for us to be moving.
Yeah.
There's a cost for some of this, and, you know, it's in there, and I'm glad that they've included that.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that was the point I was trying to make.
Now, the 2 new hires, this is keeping the same number of police officers because there are 2 retires. The 2 people are
Yeah.
retiring and 2 people are coming in. Am I
That's
right?
correct.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
It's not like a total number of more police officers.
just replacements.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just kind of forgot for a minute when I saw 2.
And we could have a retirement next year, an additional retirement next year, potentially. So
Right.
we're covered in that case.
Except for more new uniforms.
I think we'll be fine because some of the things will be covered in this year's budget because some of those hires will probably happen before the end of our fiscal year.
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah.
yeah, no, this is, I mean, we're not going to go into names, but we know that there's 2 retirements coming up this month. And those are being accounted for in the current year's budget. And then there's still potential for a retirement in next year's budget. You know, none of which is written in stone, of course. We're just trying to anticipate this in the budget. But none of this increases the size of the department.
Right, that's what I was asking.
Right.
I didn't think so, but I was just kind of.
No, it keeps it the same structure. And, you know, we had discussed previously with the board about the idea of keeping the 2 lieutenant positions, which I know is another, you know, is related to the reform discussion that's been going on related to accreditation, especially. So, but this maintains all of that.
Okay,
I just wanted to say thank you, Brenda. Again, this summary sheet is very helpful, and I assume we'll be seeing more of this in the other departments.
Yes, we'll do the same format for each department, right? It helps to summarize it, and at the end, I usually put them into a master list. So when we're reviewing, what are the priorities, or what can we afford, or what can we, you know, perhaps not do this year? At least you can have them on one piece of paper to review.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate Frank's input here too. So looking at what's going on in the county and other departments and all that. So thanks for your input, Frank.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very helpful and very on top of it, I thought.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you did a good job because you lost all the attendees. So
They all left.
You sure you didn't just end it for them?
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank.
You're gonna have to work on some more.
Wasn't that the point?
That's it. I bored everybody.
We'll have Frank the closer on every week. Just start.
Yeah, I'll get you guys out of the meetings early. That's all.
Say budget and everybody leaves. It's like,
That's
oh,
all.
budget, oh, goodbye.
All
right.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Frank.
No problem. Thank you. Everybody have a good night.
Yeah,
All right,
you
you
too.
too.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All
Take
right.
care.
Oh, take a look out there, egads.
you still have an agenda. So if you want to.
Yeah. Reports of board standing committees and officers, trustee liaison reports. Start with Mark, as is our tradition.
I have nothing today.
Larry?
Nor do I.
Connie?
Constance, geez.
Constance.
Again, we don't have the DPW and water, but no, it's all right. No, I don't have any report.
Janice? On mute.
Oh, mute.
The one person who has something.
Sorry. From the fire department, 19 calls this month and 19 calls year to date. They're working to continue everybody getting the COVID vaccine. It's not required, but they're able to get it. The big call was a gas smell that turned out to be the end of the emptying of the tank was what caused the odor, but they responded to that and took care of it. Training as usual every month, and building renovations pending the architect and apparatus going to ResCon. And for the library, the browsing was suspended because of the COVID surge and hasn't started up yet. But 3 virtual wonderful programs this week, 2 for the road, great musical couples on Thursday, 2-4 at 7. The history of the Super Bowl for all you football fans on Saturday, 2-6 at noon. And a lecture about 2 accomplished women of color, Marian Anderson and Madam C.J. Walker, on Saturday at 2. Then a little bit different kind of thing on 2/18, a speaker coming in to discuss the Medicaid program. And then a program in collaboration with Book Yaya, which is an online Meet the Author vehicle. Susan Shapiro will discuss her new book, The Forgiveness Tour, How to Find the Perfect Apology. And Keisha Bush will discuss her new novel, No Heaven for Good Boys.
Great. Village Administrator's report.
So just something quick to expand on. So in your Friday mail, you had a letter from the New York State DEC relating to the Halsey Pond Dam. So Mark reached out to me separately and was asking for a little bit of context. So I thought I'd give everyone some context just so you understand what that letter means. I wanted you to have the information, but you also should have the context. So the Halsey Pond Dam, as you know, has undergone an engineering analysis that was required by the DEC in order to be compliant, since the DEC designated it as a high hazard dam. And again, high hazard dam is a terminology that's used because there's potential, because of its location and the potential for failure. If it were to fail, there's potential significant loss of life and property downstream. That's really what classifies it as a high hazard dam. It doesn't mean that that particular dam is in danger of anything. So we had to undergo an engineering analysis. The engineering analysis showed that under certain conditions, the dam could overtop. And as a result, the DEC is requiring us to remedy that situation. Obviously, that's a dangerous situation if left unchecked. So we have engaged an engineer to work on improvements. They're designing essentially an auxiliary spillway that would allow the water to safely go around the dam and not over the dam. They're also designing a siphon system which would allow us to rapidly lower the level of the pond in advance of a heavy rain event, similar to what we do with the reservoir. So that engineering work is well underway. The DEC knows about it. The problem is that a letter like this says, and I'll use the wording that they used, it's unsound, more analysis needed. That's the comment that they used. But it simply means that the engineering analysis pointed out some deficiencies. It's not anything new. It's just something that we analyzed and discovered, and pinpointed. And we're designing those improvements right now. So the DEC knows about it. We're not under any violation. It's just wording that a standard report uses. So, but that's the context of it.
Thank you. And then Larry, what about, there was a second dam though downstream, right? That the village worked on last year?
Yeah, we took that out of service. That's been breached and has been, it's now a stream. There's no more dam. There's no more lower pond. So I don't know when the last time was you were up there, and it certainly won't be for a few months, I'm sure, but the pond that used to be right below the dam, right below the main dam, is no longer there. There's now a stream going through that area that was engineered and built. And I have pictures of it. I could probably do a show and tell. I don't know about tonight, but actually, if you look back at your, tell you what, if you look back at your Friday mail, there's numerous pictures of the stream that lead out of from where the dam is, and that stream was never there. It used to be a pond, a holding pond.
I believe you. I just don't remember.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So when it's a nice summer day that you probably can't dream of right now, we'll take a walk up there and look at it.
Yeah, was there any idea why that original lower pond was there?
No, I don't know.
It looks like it's just ornamental, maybe.
Aesthetics?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it probably was stocked with,
Fish.
koi or something. I don't know.
Frogs.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Village clerk treasurer's report.
Nothing further tonight. Thank you.
Village attorney's report.
Nothing.
Public comment. Review of action items.
We're gonna escape by that one. Yeah, and I don't, I mean, other than a question about the parking automation equipment, I didn't really. And then I have a few things to schedule for upcoming work sessions. I know all about that. I'm not sure they're action items.
Yeah, some of that's for waiting on the information.
Yep.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we are, you have the alternate link.
Yep.
Very good. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.